Let's welcome up Kev.
Just get my prop ready. All will be revealed, it's okay. Right. So I'm absolutely delighted to continue this preaching series on Indestructible Joy. And I've become increasingly excited as I've prepared this mini preach, really. And the title is The Word Made Flesh. And I just hope over the next 10 to 15 minutes that we might gain a fresh revelation of who God is and who Jesus is. And that this might recharge our faith, and that our response will not only be joy, but also be awe. So we're looking at the very start of the Gospel of John. And just wanted to make it clear that John was writing his Gospel with an evangelistic aim. And we can see that right at the end, because at the end he finishes by saying, "These words are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name." So how does John start this evangelistic gospel? What's his opening line? It was John 1:1. And John 1:1 and verses 1 and 2 there, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made." So why does John start like that? You see, it took John 3 years to work out who Jesus was. You see, he walked and talked and observed the man Jesus. In fact, he said about himself that he was the disciple whom Jesus loved. He had a close relationship with him. And yet he struggled, just like the other disciples, to really grasp and understand who Jesus was. And so in the very first few verses of his gospel, he doesn't want us to miss the point. He doesn't want us to be grasping over the identity of Jesus. You see, he stuns us and blows us away right at the beginning about the identity of this man. He wants to make sure that we understand the eternal majesty and deity and creator rights of Christ. I want to say that again. He wants to make sure we understand the eternal majesty and the deity and the creator rights of Jesus Christ. And so he links us right to the beginning of the Bible, to Genesis 1. He draws the link to the very first words of the Bible where it says, "in the beginning." And I just want to clear up one issue here where he uses the word to mean Christ. There's very clear reasons why he does that. I'm not going to unpack that today because it's probably quite a long preach. But there are various commentaries talking about the fact that Jesus came as God's orator or God's voice piece. And he came to fulfill scripture. He came to fulfill the word. But I just want you to be assured that when he uses the word, he means Jesus. So if we then reread the start of his gospel, we would say, "In the beginning was Christ. And Christ was with God. And Christ was God. And through Christ, all things were made." You see, he's saying to us, recognize who Christ is. Don't miss this point. It's crucial. Everything else I'm going to write weighs fully on this point, that Christ is God. And so he's drawing us to one of the great mysteries about God, the Holy Trinity. And again, that would be a preach in its own right. But we know that God comes as three persons and yet shares one nature forever. And he is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and the end. He is the I am. He comes in three and yet is one. Right, so now the rope. I need my helpers. I had Sam and Chris lined up. One of you needs to take the end right up that end, and the other one needs to stretch it up that end if possible. I'm going to see how strong you are, whether you can get it up in the air. I doubt it. Boomf. Go, go. Okay, it's long for a reason, honest, guys. Wow. Now, if you pull, will it go up in the air? Ah, yeah, there you go. It takes a bit of strength. Just stay there for a few minutes. It's all right. Okay, so the rope represents God. It's 3 in 1. There's 3 cords intertwined. They cannot be parted, and yet they form one whole thing. And right up here, God, the 3 in 1, right at the beginning, and right also at the end, the Alpha and the Omega. He is the uncreated God. He stands outside time. I knew they were going to get weak. Just a few more minutes. But what's amazing is that God himself, in the form of Christ, decides to come and intersect our time here. Okay, guys, thank you. I might borrow you at the end again if that's all right. Well done. You can leave it. Brilliant, thank you. Round of applause for them, that's really good. So God decides to intersect our timeline. And John, in verse 14 of his gospel, it says, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us." And in verse 18, a little bit further, it says, "No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made him known." So the story of Christmas, which is what we celebrate at this time of year, I think it's so easy, isn't it, for us to think of the flesh, to think of the baby Jesus, to go and see nativity plays put on by various schools. But I think it's so much harder for us to consider and accept and take on board who the baby Jesus was. Christ, God himself, made flesh for our sake, and as John puts it in verse 9, the true light that gives light to everyone that was coming into the world. And I think this makes it sometimes a bit hard for us in the fact that Christ, God himself, would come in such humility, would come in the form of flesh, would come in the form of a baby, and would grow from baby to child and child to adult. Right at the beginning even, Mary, who was carrying him, had to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem, probably about a 90-mile journey. Maybe only did about 10 miles a day. And apparently at a time of year where the weather wouldn't have been that great, it would have been really cold overnight. And that actually there was even risks of being attacked on the journey. And then getting to Bethlehem and having to end up in, well, we think of it as a stable, don't we? But probably some room deep down in an inn where the cattle was being kept. And where probably they may not have even had the space to themselves, because there would have been maybe lots of other people who didn't have room either. You see, he became flesh in such a humble and amazingly graceful way. You see, Christ is full of grace. He's full of mercy. He's full of humility. God himself dwelling amongst us, fully experiencing what it is to be man, to know the joys of being man, but to also know the sufferings as well. And it's so we can know God better. See, it's for our sake. It's so we can understand him. It's actually so we can be drawn to him for salvation. You see, he offers us, each and every one of us, a relationship through Christ. In the words of Jesus recorded in John 17, it says, I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one. I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. Father, I want those you have given to be with me where I am and to see my glory, the glory you have given me because you loved me before the creation of the world. Guys, can I just get you up on the rope again? I knew I'd forget something. I left something down here I need. See if they can get it in the air. You see, God, in the form of Christ, comes to intersect our timeline. And from this point on, any of us, anywhere along this timeline, can now be attached to him and receive his salvation and be with him, intertwined onto the rope. That's the story of Christmas. That's why he came. That's God himself intersecting our timeline so that we can be intertwined and attached to God himself. Thanks, guys. Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will calm the storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you kiss your little baby, you kiss the face of God. Mary, did you know that your baby boy is Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? That sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. Let's not miss who Christ is this Christmas. Thanks.
Hey, my name's Dan Baptist and I'm lead pastor here at Jubilee Community Church. We really hope that something from this morning's word has blessed you and reached you. And if you'd like to talk about anything you've heard or just be able to talk about maybe faith or get some prayer, then please get in contact. You can email us, give us a call at the centre, and one of the team's going to get back to you. We'd love to do this, especially if you're just thinking about what it is to become a Christian. You want to sit down and really talk that through with anyone. We also run regularly on a Sunday some Joining the Church courses. And if you want to know more about Jubilee Community Church and what it is to belong here, then you can just find out online when the next one of those is going on, and you can attend, have a meal, sit down, talk about it. We also have some amazing midweek group life where it's a great opportunity to dig further into your faith. Again, you can find out that on our website too. Anyway, just wanted to say hi and bless you, and we'll catch up soon.